What's up, guys? I'm going to go over my trade from this morning, show you what I took, how I got my levels. If you're following the system that I've shown you in this YouTube channel, or on this YouTube channel, in the Discord, then I'm sure you noticed that we opened up way outside of our normal levels that we mark out for the New York session. So this morning, I used something that I've been kind of testing out. So hopefully what I'm fixing to show y'all makes this strategy click. It connects some of the dots for you as far as why these levels work, why the volume profile works how it does. So let's get right into it. All right, so first I'm going to break this down for you guys super quickly. If you want to go and research more on this, you can. There's a lot of content out there. But basically, this is auction market theory. I'll make future videos on this, but for right now, just keeping it simple. Basically, the market moves like an auction, so a car auction, real estate auction, any kind of auction, right? So price is moving and it's trying to find a price where buyers and sellers are able to agree. And when that happens, the market usually is balanced at that point, right? And then we start seeing accumulation. And then at some point, we break out of that balance, and then the market at that point is imbalanced, right? And then starts trending either up or down based on the breakout, right? A more in-depth look at this. So inside this balanced area, once we break out and we fail to hold below that area and we go back up, that's a failed auction. So we failed to push price lower in this case. So we go back up into balance, and then at some point, usually it's to the opposite side, but sometimes it can be to that same side. We eventually end up breaking out of this balanced area. And then as long as we hold above this area, sometimes we'll get a nice retest. But normally, as long as we just hold above it and we start showing strength, start going higher in this example, that's called acceptance or a successful auction. So a lot of you ICT guys know of this as the power of three. That's how I kind of learned about it. So you have your accumulation, manipulation, distribution. As you see right here, ICT was not the creator of this theory. This is just one of many examples of how he has just repackaged terms that have been around for a long time, concepts. This was created in the 1980s, so it's been around for a long time. But basically, we're able to use the volume profile, market profile to identify key levels of activity, balance, and imbalance. So I'm going somewhere with this, all right? I'm going to show you all a few examples real quick, but just looking at the market through this lens now with the value area system that I've given y'all, you can already see how us using the volume profile, you can almost identify with that tool which area we're in, essentially. Are we in a balanced range? Are we imbalanced right now? Are we trying to reach for this area? All right, so here's a few examples here of some trades that I've taken in the past where I've gone back and looked at these trades through this lens. And you can see here, we get a nice 9:40 a.m. value low bounce. And then later on today, again, this is just an example of how this auction process works with these levels. So we have a failed auction later on during the PM session. We try holding this value high. We retest this point of control. And we're just not showing any strength here. Super weak. For this thing to want to go higher, obviously we need to see some more strength off this level. And we're just not getting it, right? We're slowly making lower highs. And then eventually we end up just dumping. So this is considered a failed auction, right? Failed auction. And then we have a successful auction down here at the break of this value low. So that's one example. We have an example here. We have two failed auctions at the value high. This second failed auction, we get a nice retest this value high. You could have gotten in there, targeting point of control, value low. So just showing y'all examples here. Here's a good example right here. Value high, point of control. Pre-market overnight, we're holding this area really nice. So for this thing to be a successful auction, right, for us to want to go higher, trend higher, look for higher prices, we need to keep holding this level. And here we have at market open 9:35 a.m. we have a beautiful retest of this value high right here. We hit it to the tick, and then at that point we have a trending market to the upside. This is imbalanced. This is a successful auction. prices are able to move higher at this point. Here's an example of a balanced market. We have a few bounces off the value low. We have a potential breakout here of the value low. We fail. So this is a failed auction. We move back into the value low, retest it, back to the value high. A bunch of rejections off the value high here. Value low bounce. So this is an example of a balanced market here, using these New York levels. And as you see right here, so this is a good example of the volume nodes in a volume profile tool. This is called a distribution curve. So the curve of the volume nodes is a distribution curve. And when you have an even curve like this is a perfect example of it. This is an even, pretty even distribution curve. That's usually a sign that that range you have marked out was balanced. And then this explains why we were hitting these levels spot on after this market closed, Asia opened. This gold session that night was really good because, in my theory, this even distribution curve indicating a balance in this session. Price was very balanced. Here's another example. Pre-market in this situation here, we have a failed auction overnight. This is during the London session. We're struggling to hold this value high. Super weak. Failed auction. We end up trading off that. That level all the way down to the value low, and then here you have at the point of control pre-market. We're holding this really nice. This point of control. Super bearish price action here, holding below the level. Super nice. We had this accumulation. Looking at this move in hindsight, this move being so big, when you start thinking in terms of order flow, this accumulation right here, in my opinion, this was these bigger players that are actually driving the market. They're loading up their positions right here, right? They can't put down 3,000 orders at one time. I mean, they can, but that's going to thin the book out. So they're slowly putting their orders in the market. We're accumulating. We're building up here. It's like a rubber band. They're building that pressure, and literally right when the market opens, still holding this point of control bearish, right? Right when the market opens, we dump hard. And then I don't trade market open like that right at 9:30. So personally, this right here is a great entry. Once we break this value low with all these bearish confluences, this retest of this value low is beautiful. That's a great entry. And then we sell off of it. Massive day there to the downside. That's a successful auction. Acceptance. Big move there. So failed auction, successful auction. So this is the last example here. We have two failed auctions here going to the Asia session. Nice bounce off value low there. And then we have pre-market early in the morning on this day. We have this accumulation at the value high. Beautiful accumulation here. Holding it nice. Super bullish price action at that value high. And at this point, we're wanting to see us break this range here off this value high to confirm an expansion, an imbalanced market, a trending market to the upside. So this is an example of a successful auction, an imbalanced market. So you can use this. Again, we're not just taking trades solely based off any one of these things, right? We're adding all this together and essentially creating a thesis, right? And using these things to essentially gauge where we think price is going to go. And then we're using order flow to execute. So this is a way for you guys to look at the market, look at it through this lens with the auction market theory and then the volume profile. And you should be able to gauge where price should go for that session. And it's not always that simple. I understand that. But that's the framework, right? And this is just scratching the surface. There's way more to this strategy. I'm going to show you all an example today of where the volume profile, what I showed you guys, it works a lot of the time. And the reason it works is because we can all agree that the New York session, that's the most liquid session for the S&P. That's when you see the highest amount of volume usually. You see a lot of liquidity, a lot of big moves taking place. So with that being said, that also brings me to the conclusion that these are when these big players are in the market. These institutions, these banks, these hedge funds, they're trading the New York session, right? That's when they're putting their size down. So we can use the value area of that most recent New York session to see where, because remember, the value area is showing us 70% of all the volume in that session, right? Where it was at. So we can assume that that was maybe, sort of a balanced area sometimes. Sometimes it's not, right? But for the most part, it is. And price refers back to those levels, the value high, value low, point of control, before we either have a move up, a move down, or we go back into that range and we just chop, right? That's why we're able to catch some of these moves in between these levels. But how about the days where we don't go back to these levels? Like today, for example, because we don't always go back to them. So what do you do on those days? Well, today, I'm testing this out still, but so far through my back testing, this is valid, and it's really crazy. So I'm excited to show you guys this. Here we have the New York session, right, from yesterday. These are our levels. We have our value low, our point of control, our value high, all right? As you see, market opens right around here, and yeah, obviously we're super far off these levels. I'm not expecting us to trade back into these levels. I'm just not. At this point, you could say this is a successful auction off this value area. We start trending higher, and then the market opens up right around here. So at this point, since the market moves from balance to imbalance, what's the most recent area of balance, we could say, before the market opens, right? So market open on this candle right here. The most recent area of consolidation is this area right here. All right, so what I did this morning, I marked out the volume profile of this balanced range right here. And we know it's balanced, obviously, just through price action, the consolidation, but we also have an even distribution curve here. That's a perfect distribution curve. So this is really good, right? So I did the same thing with this zone that I normally do with the New York zones, right? Or ranges. So I marked out the value high, point of control, value low around top of each other. And at this point, off the open, I'm waiting to see how we respond to this value high. Because if we end up pushing through it and pushing through this value low, then, that's a failed auction to the upside here. Possible successful auction to the downside. And I could expect us to maybe go back to our New York levels, possibly, right? But we didn't do that. We retested this value high. Perfect. Look at this. Market open. These candles hold that level to the tick. I mean, beautiful. All right. So based on price action, based on these levels, that was where I got in at. All right. And as you see, that was the bottom of this expansion move higher. Okay. And we kind of did the same thing up here. I'll show you here in a second. But most recent area of balance, remember auction market theory here, balance to imbalance, to balance to imbalance, balance to imbalance. All right. So knowing that, what do we see here? What's the most recent area of balance? Right here. All right. So we break that balance with this move up, and now we're retesting it to see if we're going to hold this auction, right? Are we going to hold it or are we going to fail? Market open, we hold it perfect. And then as far as order flow goes, all right, if we open up this tape, this is a screenshot around 8:40 here. This is that last candle before we end up exploding higher. Look at all these buyers that flood the market. All right, so we have a bunch of buyers hitting the market, and we also have this massive positive delta here. 1.5K delta, 1.1K delta. We had a big negative delta over here. It's not in the screenshot. Big negative delta for absorption. So we had a bunch of sellers hit the market without any follow through. So that would be considered absorption, right? And then following that, buyers are hitting the market. Delta's going higher. As you see all this volume here, 5.4 thousand, 4.4 thousand, 8.8 thousand. A lot of volume here, a lot of positive delta off that level. So order flow is definitely bullish on top of all this, right? And yeah, I mean, very simple here, straightforward. Even distribution curve, most recent balanced range, right? We bounced the value high and we've seen expansion move off of it, all right? I was out by this point, but I just want to show you all this. Again, we have some more consolidation here. I'm just testing this, right? But more consolidation here. Mark out that consolidation, value high of that consolidation. As you see, we test it here multiple times. Test that value high. We failed to trade, or we did trade off of it, but we failed to hold it, and then we end up pushing through it. So this right here would be a failed auction, right? This would be a failed auction. We're going back down. At this point, I don't know what's going to happen, right? Just kind of looking at it in hindsight here, testing. But this right here was the move this morning. If it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be able to even use the volume profile and trade because our levels were so far down here. So this is something I'm testing, something you guys can test. But just kind of change the way you're looking at this volume profile system. Look at it through that auction market theory lens and start applying that to the volume profile, because that's what the volume profile is showing us, right? And then on the flip side, I want to show you all this too. This is really cool. As far as using this for targets, so this is a really cool thing you guys can do as well. If you go on the 4 hour here, if I'm wanting to go long, if I am long, right? Obviously, my targets are above me. So you can kind of use the same, and this is just something I kind of came up with. You could mark out this volume profile of this consolidation right here. So this is the consolidation range closest to us, right? So we can mark out when we start consolidating here, right before we stop. You can mark out this, and you can use these high volume nodes as potential targets, right? These are actual support and resistance levels. These aren't random levels based off a candle. No, these are real data-driven levels, right? And if you notice this, the point of control, so the highest volume node in this accumulation was the top of the move today. Pretty crazy stuff, all right? That's the top of the move. So you can also use these ranges to pick out targets. Something else I've been testing too, if we go on our weekly, so every week we mark out the previous week's volume profile. Again, I'm just testing this and seeing, but we have high volume nodes here. High volume nodes are super high levels of support and resistance, a lot of volume trading activity in these areas. So marking out these high volume nodes as a zone, right? Because they're pretty thick. So we have one there. One there. That one was off for some reason. One there, and we have our point of control right here, right? That's the highest volume node. So if we go over here, this week's price action, we can see we end up bouncing and rejecting these zones almost perfect. So we have a bounce here, a few bounces on this one here, a perfect bounce there, rejection there, bounce there. We hold inside this one for a little while, and then we have a retest of it right here once we break it. So there's some validity there too. I know this is a lot, but this is stuff I've been looking at, stuff I've been studying to add to this system to make it better. I don't use the high volume nodes as much. That's something new I'm kind of just looking at. But I know a lot of traders use them and will trade in between them and scalp. And there's a lot of ways you can use this tool. But thought it was pretty cool, especially using those for targets. I know a lot of times it's hard with this system to find targets. So yeah, keep doing what y'all are doing with the New York levels. It works. The system works really well. But there are some days where we are outside of those levels. And in that case, this is going to be the way to trade this system. Find the most recent area of balance, right? And draw your volume profile. See where your levels are at and trade based off of that. And like I said, I'm not just looking for us to retest this value high to go yeah, that's part of it. And if it happens, great. It did happen here. But I can also use this, if we break this area of balance to the downside, like I was saying earlier, I could look at going short and targeting these daily levels possibly, or the weekly levels, depending on where they're at. So there's multiple ways to look at it. It's just being on the right side of the market, right? And that's where the order flow comes in. Combining order flow with the system, it's huge. It's very important. So that's the video, guys. That was a lot. I would recommend keep studying order flow, start studying some auction market theory. I'll make more on that in the future. I'm honestly still new to it. I just wanted to show you guys so y'all can start applying it. But for me, a light bulb went off when I really broke down that and combined it and looked at the volume profile through that lens. It all kind of made sense to me. Not that it didn't before, but any dots that weren't connected, they're all connected now. So thought that was really neat, and I hope it helped you guys out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.